CJ Box is my guest, novelist extraordinaire. He's the author of the wildly successful Joe Pickett series of books, including the most recent one, Stormwatch. And he's also got a second series that I don't think he ever intended for it to become a series. They were really meant to be standalone books, but it turned into the Cody Hoyt, which turned into the Cassie Dewell series of books, the latest being Treasure State. And CJ, good to have you back. Welcome.
Thanks for having me back, Dwayne. I appreciate it.
Now, you didn't hear the music because you're on the video feed, and we can't play the music over the video feed, but I was playing Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, 15 Feet of Pure White Snow, which fiction becomes reality in Wyoming, does it not, over the past couple of weeks?
It does. It does in the book, and then it has in real life. Yeah. I just finished the national part of the tour on Sunday night, and drove home to Wyoming from Denver and made it within 200 yards of my house before I got stuck and had to hike the rest of the way.
Were you in a truck? Did you lose like the equivalent of the Joe Pickett truck in the snow?
I did it exactly like that. Yeah, I had to go out the next day in a skid steer and pull my truck out.
Yep. That is reflected in the book, among other things. I'm not going to divulge a lot of secrets, or I'm not going to divulge a lot of stuff. And I thought I was going to spend, when we booked this, virtually all of my time on the Pickett book, because it was, the most recent thing, and that's what I thought we were going to talk about. But the people at Macmillan threw a curveball at me yesterday, and I am totally hook, line, and sinker picked up on this thing. We'll cover that in just a minute too. But let's get to let's get to Stormwatch first, and then we'll shift over to Treasure State. First of all, the way you can tell how long it takes for a year to pass can now be measured in seasons of Pickett. When is season 2 going to be seen by us?
On the TV show on Paramount Plus. We don't have a firm date yet, but it's going to be in just a couple of months. We do have that. We're excited about season 2. When I say we, it's not the royal we, it's my wife and I, loved season 1. And so did my family, and it was the number 3 show on Paramount Plus, so it's done very well. So we're excited for season 2.
Are they still shooting the back end of it, or is season 2 completely in the can, waiting to drop?
It's in the can and has been for quite a while. They finished up filming, I believe, in September in Calgary.
Do they have orders for a season 3, and when would they start shooting that?
They have not. I think they want to see how season 2 does before they do.
Season 2 will be a smash. Season 1 was terrific. Season 1 was great.
Thanks. Yeah, we're optimistic.
Okay, let's get to some of the things in the book quickly. I want to cover the concept of the CCP and their infiltration into the university system. How did that make its way into Wyoming and a Joe Pickett book? And is there more that you think can be fleshed out of that subject, or do you think you pretty much tapped that out in this book?
Well, I don't know if there can be more, but the impetus of that storyline, like a lot of storylines, honestly, Dwayne, come from listening to the Hugh Hewitt show, following the news. I was kind of horrified and surprised a couple of years ago to find out how far that CCP has reached into, especially academia in the U.S. And I wanted to put that, just like I always do, it's kind of a juxtaposition. The last place you would expect any kind of infiltration or influence would be in a state like Wyoming. But there is some sensitive stuff in Wyoming universities, is there not? There is, because it's known for being a leader in energy development and fracking, as well as cryptocurrency.
There is also, life imitates art, art imitates life, real news, trying to predict what real news is going to be. We see in the news in the last couple of days and weeks about domestic terrorism and how dangerous domestic terrorism is on the right. We saw a piece in the Atlantic that, there's dangerous rhetoric and extremism on both the left and the right, but because of it's from the Atlantic, the right's got to clearly be 100 times worse. But in the Stormwatch book, you've got a group called the Keystoners. And I'm looking around going, Keystoners, they got to be here somewhere. Tell us about the Keystoners.
Well, it's a fictional group, but it's based on what could be reality. It's about a bunch of disaffected oil field workers and oil supply service people who are all laid off because of a certain pipeline that didn't go forward. So they don't have much to do. They're bitter. They get together. They're very anti-government to begin with. They're a little wacky, but they and some others try to recruit Nate Romanowski to their side in what they hope will be a secessionist movement so that Wyoming can join Texas and other states. Wholly fictional at this point. But those things always bubble up in the Mountain West where there's so much federal land and there's so much influence by the federal government.
There is a lot of hostility in C.J. Box's Wyoming between local and state government and the feds. There is an appearance by a couple of FBI agents named Agents Scott and Fetterman, and it just made me laugh out loud because I don't know where those names might have popped up from, CJ Box.
Sometimes I'm prescient, sometimes I totally misread the situation. And at the time I was writing the book, I thought, by the time this book comes out, no one will remember the name Fetterman or where it came from.
Because there's no chance he could get elected. There's no chance he could get elected. Yeah,
yes,
I know.
Right. I've done this before. I've tried to guess, and I've guessed wrong.
It is often said that a good novel is one that tells a good, fun, entertaining story, but teaches you something along the way or teaches you a few things along the way. I am still trying to get up to speed on what Bitcoin is, how it works, how it operates. I learned a lot about the back end of what Bitcoin's about that I never knew was a thing, including how it's processed and how the transactions are processed and how the computers that process those transactions are powered. You want to explain that without divulging too much of the plot, CJ?
Oh, sure. And it's something. I'm not a Bitcoin expert or cryptocurrency expert by any means, but I got interested in the subject when I found out that there were a lot of independent little facilities going up, sometimes in very remote areas in the Rocky Mountains. They put a building on top of an old capped oil and gas well to draw that power and put a turbine in it and then fill the building full of computers running white hot to mine cryptocurrency. It's based on a true thing. I met a guy who manufactures those facilities, and I just thought it was again.
Have you actually seen one? Did you go actually see one in operation?
Yep, I went inside and I went inside the facility as it was being manufactured, and then saw one in the field in the middle of nowhere. So wow. It doesn't require outside power. The amount of power that's required to mine cryptocurrency, I saw one statistic when I was researching it. It's equivalent to all the appliances running in the United States at the same time.
It's more than you would think. It's actually quite a bit. One last thing on the book, just because it was just another laugh out loud. Probably the funniest line, at least to me, from where I sit and doing what I do. The funniest line in Stormwatch. Quote, Judge Hewitt doesn't know technology. End quote. Man, if there's a truer line that CJ Box has written, I have not read it yet. That's I have lived that for 23 years. Stormwatch. It's a phenomenal read, CJ. It's not long range. I still think that's the one by which all other CJ Box books are measured. I don't know why. I just happen to like this one a lot better. At least the first couple hundred pages worth, and then it kind of falls off from there. But I digress.
Yes,
we got to talk about. Go.
I think of it as the Dwayne Patterson book in my mind. That's what
it really is. It really should. It could have been the first of a third series, is what it really could have been. But I digress. Okay, we got to shift to Treasure State because I didn't think we were going to talk about this at all, except that we'll talk about what the news is on it in a second. But give people the premise or the subplot that led to what Macmillan is doing with it, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure. Treasure State is a Cassie Dewell book, not a Joe Pickett book. Cassie Dewell is a Montana private investigator. And in the book, there's a couple of plots going on, but the main one is she is actually hired by a guy who claims to have written a treasure hunt poem. And he hires her in secret to try to discover his identity, figuring out if Cassie can figure out who he is, then the treasure hunters can figure out who he is. And it's all based, again, on a true story for a guy named Forrest Fenn, who for 5 years kept the Mountain West on tenterhooks while people tried to figure out where the treasure that he buried was. And 5 people died in the search for it. So it's based on that. The treasure was eventually found. So it wasn't a hoax after all, but it sure captivated a lot of people.
And it's not a hoax that we actually have a true treasure hunt underway. CJ, can you stick around for the break? I want to talk to you for like 3 more minutes. Can you hold over the break, or do you have to run?
Nope. I'm just sitting here looking at the snow.
Okay, we'll come back with CJ Box right after the break because we actually have an actual treasure hunt underway, a bounty, and a mystery to solve, and I am totally hooked. I now have to go back and read every one of these books over again to try to figure out what this riddle is. From Bozeman to the Bitter Roots, Cassie Dewell travels, and so should you, clever reader, this mystery to unravel. Allow me to introduce myself. I've been here from the beginning, back before the Lizard King made his first dark killing. Crack open any Dewell book, I'm in almost every chapter, but rarely mentioned by my name. Do you see who you're after? Some might call me country, but in Montana it's true. My grandeur is the talk of cities, and I'm often very blue. You'll see my name in local bars and restaurants downtown, but in the plains and the mountains I gain my high renown. To conclude this novel riddle, I'll give you one more clue. You'll find me deep in Treasure State. Will I find you there too? If you can solve the mystery, the person or the thing that this mystery is pointing to, and you go to CJ Box's Twitter page, which is at CJ Box Author, there's a link that will take you to Macmillan, his publisher, and there is a contest. There's a form you can fill out. You can get a signed copy of Treasure State. CJ Box, the big question to me, I will give you total props for all time if you can tell me that this was all part of the master plan, that you wrote the whole series of books thinking there was going to be this at some point, and that this wasn't just some really smart person at Macmillan who came up with a stunt.
Well, Dwayne, I have to say, as usual, it wasn't part of the master plan.
Darn it.
It is a smart person at the publisher, young guy.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Came up with this idea, and I thought it was fantastic as well. And he put it out in kind of a limited way when Treasure State came out last September, and now with the paperback about ready to come out, they've decided to do it a little more on a bigger scale. And I think it's a hoot. I think it's fun.
Did you know what he was talking about when he did the riddle? I mean, did he try to stump you with the riddle?
He did. Yeah, we were one night.
Did you know what it was?
I did immediately.
Well, that's disturbing. Because I've read every one of these books too. I should know this, and I don't. Now, I don't care about the contest. I mean, Chuck, you and I are friends. If I wanted a signed copy of the book, I'd say, hey, Chuck, I need a signed copy of the book, and I'd have one. So I don't care about winning the contest, but it frosts me that I don't know this off the top of my head.
When this is over, I will DM you the answer, and you'll just smack your head and say, it was there all along.
Well, no, no, you're not going to do that. I'm going to go read the books, and I'm going to have to figure it out. So what comes next? This coming year is, every year is a Pickett year, but every other year is a Dewell book. So we've only got one book to expect this coming year. That's right, and I'm about a third done with the next Joe Pickett book. I'm not sure when the next Cassie Dewell book will be. It may be a couple of years. It's just, that pace of a book and a half a year is pretty tough. But I don't know how you did it. That's crazy to me that you were able to be that prolific. But I commend you for doing it as much as you did. CJ, thank you very much for sticking over the break. It's always a hoot talking to you. We've been friends for a long time, off air as well as on air, and the emails we have traded back and forth are kind of legendary amongst our own little circles here. So that's right. I look forward to the next thing and trying to outguess the plot line yet again and failing miserably. But in the meantime, I've now got to go backwards and figure out what this riddle is. Thanks, Chuck.
Oh. Well, thank you, Dwayne. And, there's no reviews that I look forward to more every book than yours. Seriously.
Well, I appreciate that. Someday we may try to put those out there somewhere just to be fun with it. But anyway, CJ Box, all things CJ Box at CJ Box Author, or you can go to cjbox.net is the website. And by the way, Chuck, get your people to put this riddle thing, put it up on the website too. I don't think it's there as of this morning. It needs to be.
It does need to be. Yep, I agree.
Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate it. We will talk down the road. I got to go back and read. I got to breathe the bitter roots all over. I got to read all this stuff again. Thanks, Chuck. See ya.
Thanks so much, Dwayne.
Bye.